Hello, YouTube. How are you doing today? Hi. So I've just wanted to put another YouTube video about Australian cricket. So I've just now finished watching the Women's World T20 final. Australia won. Wow, fourth win in out of six. So Australia's won four. West Indies won one last time 2 years ago, and England won one. And that's four out of six. That's pretty good. And Australia, women's team has been dominant in the one-day internationals or women's one-day internationals and the women's test. And they continue to be dominant. And why are we saying that Australian cricket is in such big trouble? I mean, I've said it myself. I've said, we obviously we lost a lot with Smith and Warner for one thing, and we also lost a lot when we had the 2008 the retirements of particularly Adam Gilchrist and Shane Warne. We also lost, of course, Glenn McGrath. We lost Ricky Ponting, Matthew Hayden, and a number of others. Now, and the others, I think, were good players, but I think the others were at a level where we usually have players of that calibre. No offence to Damien Martin, but we've had other Damien Martin, we've had other Justin Langers, but we haven't had another Adam Gilchrist, we haven't had another Shane Warne. And arguably, even though we have had other Glenn McGraths, they perhaps haven't been quite as good. Haven't been quite as good as Matthew Hayden. Well, a few have, but yeah, it's been a big drop since 2008, let's say. But doesn't mean we're terrible. We just won against India in the T20 international 4 days ago, and we had a draw in the second match, and now we've got the third match tonight. How bad are we? Who knows? I mean, we might win this one. And so I just wanted to sort of look at that and just sort of put it into perspective when people are going, oh, doom and gloom, Australian cricket is so terrible. Now, I don't know how many people know all about history. Australian cricket wasn't always all that good. When Dr. W.G. Grace decided that he wanted to have a second test team, he was thinking of USA. He wasn't thinking of Australia. He went over to USA, played against them, played 22 versus 11s, and went to Canada as well, and found them to be really bad. Somehow they dropped in quality. I think mainly because they started playing baseball instead. Baseball and cricket have some similarities. You kind of can't play both at a really high level. You got to pick one. So USA picked baseball, and there you go. Baseball very similar to cricket in a lot of ways, but it's more about individual moments rather than a consistent period. So you have one individual moment, you get a home run, you get that 4 runs out of probably a team total of 6. You don't have that in cricket. In cricket, it's an accumulation. So in baseball, it's all about that one moment. In cricket, it's about an overall period. So similar skill sets, but different. More precise with baseball, more about the errors. In cricket, yeah, there's errors, but it's different. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no reason that USA couldn't play cricket at a really high level, but they'd have to give up baseball. Don't think they want to do that. Same as Cuba, same as Japan. They could easily play cricket at a high level. So anyway, Australia was the team that W.G. Grace went to play against. During the tour, they improved. I mean, I've seen the scorecards. To start with, the teams that Grace were playing against were terrible. And then by the end of the tour, they were almost at his team's level. And then the next tour came along, and it eventually became known as the first Test match. Grace himself was pretty annoyed about because he said his tour was the Test tour. But anyway, you can argue about that. But yeah, certainly that's how Test cricket came about. So Australia cricket wasn't that good in the early days. The main inspiration, we're a lot smaller than England. We've always been a lot smaller. The main inspiration was trying to get one up on them. And that's been the same inspiration if you look at New Zealand cricket. New Zealand cricket's tried to be one up on Australia. You've looked at India and Pakistan. Pakistan's tiny compared to India. They're about 1/5, 1/6 the size. But they've lifted themselves to try to be better than India. And they have overall, I mean, in a lot of ways, Pakistan have done as well as, and in some ways better than India have. And they shouldn't be anywhere near it. And you look at Sri Lanka, you look at Bangladesh, we've had small countries do really well. We've had poor countries do really well, and because they're inspired, they want to do well. We've seen Zimbabwe when they first came out; they wanted to do well, and then different things happened that made them not want to do well. So when you look at Australian cricket, it's always been a source of pride for Australia that, and with a lot of sports, we're a very sporting country, but we've wanted to do well. So when, of course, we overreacted massively to that ball tampering issue, and I'd argue that that wouldn't happen in any other country, and that's because of our particular view of how our status of our cricketers. We were irrational. I mean, I think any team would be irrational about it, but they've been irrational in a certain way. I mean, how were they irrational in South Africa? They were pretending that nothing was happening. How were they irrational in Sri Lanka? They were pretending that nothing was happening. So there's always irrational in a certain way. We were irrational in a certain way. And perhaps had it not been sandpaper, had it not been as obvious, we might have been defending him. Yeah. So point is, so we've got a T20 on tonight. Will we win? I don't know. I don't know if we will or not. Aaron Finch is doing well. Glenn Maxwell has come back into some good form, and I thought it was really good the other night. So we've got a few people there. I mean, Mitchell Starc started out as a T20 bowler. He's only recently, only the last few years, been any good at tests. And I think really recently, the last few months, he's been not as good as he was before. So I think Starc will be great in a T20. I think that's his specialty. The shorter the format, the better. A bit like Virat Kohli for India. And Kohli's done really well in tests lately, but still, I'd say Kohli is a better T20 player, a better ODI player. And that's in spite of him failing in the last T20. So, we've got a chance. We might win, we might lose. If we lose, the series is drawn 1-1, which is ridiculously unlikely compared to what we were looking at. So, I mean, we might still lose the ODI series, the Test series, but I guess the point is that we're not that far off. When we look at the World Cup coming up, middle of next year, 6 months away, and whether or not we have Smith and Warner there, and we might not, because they might be excluded for some political reason. Smith might be included, but not Warner. It might be neither of them are included. It might be both. And it might be that they're both included, but they're not informed. Warner hasn't shown anywhere near the form that Smith has since they've been away. But either way, I'm not thinking that Australia are out of the contest for winning the whole thing. I think that's a possibility. And I'm still saying that I think that we'll win the Test series. And that's another thing. When I talked about the Marcus Harris issue, now since announcing that Harris would debut, they've now said that he might not. They're now saying that this round of Sheffield Shield matches is up for grabs for people like Harris, Peter Handscomb, and even Mitchell Marsh, that the three of them are fighting for 2 spots. Bit of a strange thing to say when Handscomb was supposedly only covering for Khawaja. But there you go, change their mind. Who knows? Maybe Harris will get 1 test, and if he fails, they'll put someone else in. I'd be happy with that situation. It is a hunch, and I think hunches shouldn't. If you have a hunch, they get 1 test. Right? If you have someone that's more deserving, that's put in the effort, that has been knocking on the door, you give them an extended run, and that's the difference. And nothing wrong with hunches. I've said that so many times. Bryce McGain was the one I was thinking of the other day. He's the spinner that was fantastic for ages and then just failed at test level. So, so that's the thing. I've seen. I know the women's team's different to the men's team, but I saw that and I was like, wow. We're supposed to suck. West Indies were supposed to win the whole thing. There you go. We beat them, won the final, and there you go. It's and this is during a time when we're supposed to be depressed. We're supposed to be going, all these excuses. Oh no. I mean, teams miss players all the time. There's injury, there's illness. Some of them take time off to have a baby or deal with a parent that's sick or dying, or a wife that's sick or dying. And these sorts of things happen. It's unfortunate it's a ban, but we've also had people be off from bans as well. It's that West Indian player that was match fixing, Marlon Samuels, who was match fixing, and he was off for a few years, and he's come back as a good player, and he match fixed. It's not controversial. You can look it up. They don't talk about it a lot, but he was found guilty of match fixing, was banned for, I think, 3 years, and he came back and was a good player. And he wasn't that good before. Muhammad Amir from Pakistan was banned for spot fixing, which is less than match fixing. It's not as big a deal. And he's come back and he hasn't been all that good, but he could have been good. He still might be good in the future. So that's the thing. Like, okay, so they're banned, and even if you believe, I don't know why you believe something that's not true, but if you believe that they have done some horrible thing, I mean, they've done this is the biggest punishment you can imagine. So, I mean, I hope they will come back. There's a lot of indications that they will be, at least by the other cricketers. So, hopefully that will be the case. And I think most important, I hope that the crowd will be saying, welcome back. Like West Indies did for Marlon Samuels, and say, come back, thank you, good job. And come back. And that's the thing. So, are we the worst team in the world? I think probably not. Are we worse than we should be? Yes, definitely. And the T20 to ODI to Test way of doing the series is a good one. It's a good idea. And look, we've got the match on tonight. I'm excited about it. I hope that we do well. I know India, even though they did lose the first test, and they're a team that goes on momentum. So losing that first T20 and then drawing the second one will upset them. But at the same time, I mean, perhaps every team does that to some extent, and they've got a good chance of winning as well. I mean, I've been surprised by how bad Virat Kohli's done. I thought he was in good form. So he might come good with a big score and win it for India, or he might have a bad one and India lose. Who knows? I mean, Kuldeep Yadav, I think that's how you say his name. He's been very good. And I didn't have him in India's test squad, and some other people told me, that he should be there. Well, perhaps he should be. Perhaps Ravindra Jadeja, who, as far as I could tell, in England was amazing. Perhaps he'll be missing out, or perhaps Ravi Ashwin will miss out. Perhaps both of them will miss out. Anyway, you look at it, a lot of things could happen, and I think, it might be a case of a bit of momentum going, and it could be the momentum's currently in Australia's way. It might end up going India's way. That might be the factor more than anything else. So, yeah, you can tell. So I was just looking at in my eye. So my cat, that was one scratch. Sort of did a bit of a Tyrion thing, scratched over the eye. It didn't look quite as impressive with a cat scratch, but there you go. Can you imagine going? Not in a fierce contest, more in a sort of a bit of a hug that she didn't want. She just went wow. Anyway, and that's the thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens, and we'll see if Australia win, if India win, if who knows. I mean, I certainly saw in the first match Australia were doing badly, but then we get bit better towards as the innings went on, and that was in the second one as well before the rain came. And look, India were more ahead in the second match, but I don't think India were guaranteed to win by any stretch. Not even if there hadn't been any rain, even if there'd been a full 20 over match. I think India were ahead, but I don't think it was a guarantee. I mean, we look at 160 as normally the pass score in a T20 at the moment. So Australia were 137 after 19 overs. Let's say we got to 150. That's 10 runs short. I think, if you're looking at 10 runs short of the average, India's ahead, but it's not a guarantee. You say, oh, well, India bats really well. Well, Australia bowls really well. Australia's been a bowling team for pretty much since 2008, and increasingly so over the years. So a lot of people are saying, well, we're worse. We're definitely worse than we were in 2008, but our bowling's better. We're worse overall because our batting is a lot worse. But if we just had a little bit of batting go well, we have the bowling to back that up, particularly the fast bowling. Probably Australia's probably the best bowling team in the world. And I mean, there are some competitors, obviously, Pakistan and South Africa, but probably the best bowling team in the world, and or one of the best. And just a little bit of good batting. There you go. Just need a Maxwell and a Finch in the T20 format. Go for it. And that's why I mean I would love to see Maxwell in the tests, but at the moment he's not there. I think he can be a Mark Waugh-like level like player, and he could score some big runs when it's needed. And I think that the fact that he's done so well in T20s has let a lot of people off him. His batting average in first class level is good enough for tests, while someone like Marcus Harris is not. Maxwell has a better record than Harris. Enough people realise this. But then again, Bevan did too back in the days when Michael Bevan was the ODI specialist and never played a test, or he played a few, but he failed. You know, Warner was supposedly no good at tests, and you saw how well he did. He did really well. And yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to say. So I think that if we're going to try out someone like Harris, we should have tried him in the short formats first. I think it's a mistake to put him straight into the test. It's too much pressure. If we did think that he was good enough, I mean, he put him in as a hunch. That's one thing. I would like to see him batting at 6. He's going to play because it's a hunch. You know, you don't even if they're normally an opening batsman, you don't start him as an opener if it's a hunch. Matt Renshaw was not a hunch when he was put in. He deserved it. He put in the effort. He put in the scores. He was a reliable, consistent player that had done everything that deserved it. Arguably, Aaron Finch did too. And I mean, you'd sort of have an argument to say that Travis Head was not that much of a hunch, really, because consistent at one day international. Yeah, so that's my thought. We'll see how we go. Hopefully, we do well, and we'll see you then.